Hey there, Chuck. It's a week since our last conversations,
Wait, what?
and
It's only been a
there
week.
has been so much going on. I actually wonder if there'll be a time where we can say there hasn't been so much going on, because I feel like I have 3 things by middle of the week, then I have 6 things, I have 12 things, and I'm like, but then 3 more happen that are more important, right? So I
Jim,
have got
I dream of a time when you and I can come on here, and I mean this with all my heart, where we can go, not much happened this week, Jim. How you doing?
so we're gonna
I
talk about
would
something
love that.
easier.
I wouldn't know what to do.
I know, right? It's like, thank God we prepare. And even then, we don't have to prepare hard to be ready for these things. There's so much content that is produced by the current government and the current situation in the world that as a content creator, we don't have to try hard. It's sad.
No,
And
no.
I want to try hard. I want to do the right thing, which is why we do our baggy awards and our happy moments. And so I'm ready for today. So, let's just talk about all that's going on.
Bring it.
The war's on, the war's off, the war's on, the war's off, the war's on, the war off, the war's on, the war's off, right? So,
Now, did you hear the breaking news from an hour ago?
yeah, we're going to open the Strait of Hormuz. But
No, we're going to blockade it. The Navy is being sent there. We're going to blockade it.
well, I was out giving praise to the good Lord and Savior this morning. And that would have happened and I would have.
No, we're gonna the 14. We had, first of all, it was really funny. I was all prepared, and he screwed it up because I was going to talk about Taco Tuesday when he completely folded and said, 8 hours before I'm going to decimate a civilization. He's like, "Psych, it's all good." And then today, yeah. So negotiations have failed. Imagine that, JD
Yeah,
Vance.
JD Vance, such a great guy.
Imagine that he couldn't
Reminds
get
you
it.
of the talent.
He couldn't get Iran across the finish line. So yeah, we're going to block.
Well, there
We're
wasn't a
going to
couch
blockade the
involved.
Strait of
If there'd been a
Hormuz.
couch involved, you'd have got across the finish line.
Or maybe there was a really nice couch involved, and that's all he could concentrate on.
I could go there. It's probably like blue and gold, right?
But no, continue.
All right.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I
So,
just
so we
know
have
you
that.
heard the latest.
Reading the war timeline is almost hilarious, right? How many times we've said we've won. I mean, George Bush called it early on his Iraq war and paid a little price for that. We've called this early so many times. I'm tired of the false orgasm.
You know what's crazy? If you look at the first Trump administration, and if you look at this Trump administration, until I'm going to get argued with on this, but that's okay. Let's say 4 months ago, 5 months ago, it seemed like if he said to the American people, blue is green and green is blue, they'd go, well, and then if anybody said, no, green is green, they'd say, oh, it's the Democrats, it's a hoax. And people would buy that. But you and I talked about this before, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. It wasn't that brilliant of a call. But I called this a couple of months ago, and I said, when gas hits $4 a gallon, you're going to see people fleeing for the exits. And the reason is because if it's things like, we're keeping transgender kids out of sports, and we're winning the war against woke, whatever the fuck that is, those kind of things, it's really interesting. So I was out to dinner with, my wife and I were out to dinner with some friends of ours last night. We were talking about the podcast. I was talking about you and how we met and all these kind of things. She's more on the progressive side, and she said she was worried about the midterms and the base and that. And I said, I- I'm not that worried about it, because you're talking about polls, and polls can be bullshit, but if looked at carefully, polls can be a bellwether of what's to come. And this is not political genius, this is not political science anymore, but we know that elections are won and lost by independent voters. Blue gonna vote blue, red gonna vote red. It's the independent voters. And unfortunately, often, and I don't mean to offend anyone, but independent voters, I find when I talk to independent, and I have friends who consider themselves independents, what that really means is they have a very precursory knowledge of what's going on. They look at a headline here, maybe they hit Fox News 1 minute, maybe they hit MS Now the other minute, but they're not totally invested. So if you look, young men, independents went for Trump this time around because overwhelmingly all the polls say that they thought he would do better job with the economy than Kamala Harris would. And he had successfully told everybody that Harris would get us in war with Iran, which still blows my mind. And then here we are. So again, you can believe green is blue and blue is green, but when you're pumping gas and you're trying to get to work and it's over $4 a gallon, and your groceries cost more, and your electricity costs more, and all of those things, you can't bullshit that anymore. Now there's a small population of the small portion of the population rather, that for whatever reason has this grievance mentality and is going to do anything Trump says because they believe, just like him, that they are victims somehow. But I think the majority, and I think like 70+% in the American public, are looking at this and going, this is failure. This is a shit show. And you can't, and I go with what you just said, you can't tell me we completely annihilated their nuclear capabilities a year ago, and now they were 2 weeks away. And then part of what was going down was, well, we're going to let them keep their nuclear material. And it's like, so any reason you said we were going in, you have now, meaning the Trump administration, you have now negated, not the left, not the talking heads, not Jim and Chuck, you have negated it. And I think the American people are starting to wake up and go, this just doesn't match.
Well, I'm going to liken it to the reign of Evita Peron in Argentina. And it's this exciting in the beginning. Everyone falls for it. The programs start. You get real into it. Just if you watch the musical, it tells you all this, right? And then suddenly our lead actor gets bored, gets tired. He's bored. He's tired. Things aren't happening. He is as lame duck as you can be without being a lame duck.
Mhm.
And he's not getting people to just bow to his wishes anymore, which is obvious. His approval ratings dropped another 17 points or something like that. I mean, it's just, we've never seen a president with this low.
You're right. It is the lowest of any
And
president.
then you've got China coming in and slopping AI everywhere. You got the Iranians slopping AI, and they're doing it in a way that goes right into his ego. If you play with his ego, you're rattling his cage. You get him upset because he can't fight anything like that. He doesn't know how. He doesn't have the ability. So he posts an AI about a murder, like a very graphic AI about someone being murdered. It's like, really? That's your response as a president? So, it's unprecedented times. I mean, I don't even know what to say when this stuff happens, because on one hand, I'm cheering on China and Iran and laughing my ass off for the content they're producing, which is so good. So good. If you haven't seen it, please just check it out before it gets wiped out because they don't want us to see it. And then on the other hand, I just have such pity for a man who is so loathing of everything and of this country that while he speaks of it being his favorite, of loving it, he will destroy it loving. And that just kind of just rips me apart. And sadly, what he should have said is, we're going into Iran to fight a war so I don't have to do Epstein. That would have been the honest truth. Now we have to say Epstein is the reason we're in the war. I mean, it's like we're going back and forth. Epstein's back up again, guys. Right? It's back on top.
Mhm.
In fact, I think one of the most interesting things we saw this week was Melania. Talk about building the wall. So
Top of
Trump
the
are building a wall.
Top of the list, my brother. Top of the
And
list.
she is out there, right? If there was any better statement of how do you separate yourself from your husband before you divorce him, it was very clear. That's what Melania is doing. She's setting herself up to pull out.
Well, and the thing about it is that the initial report was, and it's so funny because it came up on my TikTok or something. The initial report was that the White House was completely blindsided by her doing this. They had no idea. No, hold on. And then they're like, well, MS Now edited out where Trump said, no, if you read what Trump said she told somebody about it, but I wasn't that aware of what she was going to say. So whatever. Here's the bottom line with this administration. I don't believe anything they said. And it would not shock me, as scattershot as they are with everything, is if she didn't do this. And I'm going to read this. This is from the AP. Complicating matters further, a woman claiming to be the ex-girlfriend of Paolo Zampoli, Melania's former modeling agent turned presidential envoy, has been posted cryptic threats online hinting she could, quote unquote, spill on alleged connections. If the posts are authentic, they would be the same ex-girlfriend who claims Zampoli used his friendship with the Trumps to get her deported by ICE. Coincidence or catalyst? In Trump's world, nothing is ever simple, and this saga is fast becoming a particularly tangled web. The woman who claims to be Amanda Ogarro, former partner and mother of Zampoli's child, posted a series of replies targeting the First Lady on X over the last several days. I will tear down your corrupt, this is a quote, I will tear down your corrupt system, even if it's the last thing I do in my life. I will go all the way. I am not afraid. Maybe you should be afraid of what I know and who you are and who your husband is, the person claiming to be Ogarro wrote. Yeah. So not only did she really screw up Trump world, she may have put herself out there.
Well, and she went out there and her statement, I didn't know any of these people. And then they pull up an email with her and Ghislaine. And it's like, well, yeah.
And pictures that have been out long before AI was a thing. Now, I know pictures have been able to be manipulated for decades, but these pictures are from like the and they certainly don't look manipulated to me, but I'm not a professional. I don't
You
know.
know, when I was a kid, my parents said to me, the reason you don't lie is because you can't keep it all straight. At some point, your lies are stacking on lies. Then you forget what you lied about and you're lying more. And if there's any proof to the pudding that that's the statement that exists here, is that our current leader and his fembot have gone out there and lied and turned stories constantly. It's so far that they don't know what's up, down, left, right, center. They don't know even what they've said. And the White House press and all those folks and the press secretary are not able to keep it straight anymore. And I think what's happening is that we're sitting at the edge of the major release of something in Epstein. I'm pretty gonna if my spidey senses tell me that something out there on the web is coming in and somebody's going to release a document. It's going to be about Melania. It's going to be about Trump. Or when they actually get balls on just to talk about everybody else in the files, it's going to be devastating. I watched a special this week about Bill Gates, about the real monster he potentially is after some of the stuff that's come out about Epstein. And when you hear who else was there, you start to say, well, they're all the same. And then you look and go, it's all your tech leaders and tech bros. It's all your major fortune companies. There isn't one leader of the world today that isn't going to be somehow scathed and touched by what's in those files. In some ways, maybe we don't need to know because of the crumbling level of destruction.
Well, it's funny. I heard that, and was it Pam Bondi who said that if the Epstein files came out and everybody was found out or whatever, that the system would crumble or
Yeah.
whatever. And so there's a part of me, the deep thinking, worried about the world, for lack of a better term, part of me is like, no, we've got to be careful how we handle this. And then the other part of me that is just fed up with ultra wealthy people getting away with everything says,
Yeah.
fuck it, let it fall.
I mean, that's what I'd say. It's sort of like we've become a split society, and the well-to-dos will keep well-to-doing. The rest of us will grovel and beg for the scraps thrown at us. It's time to take it down. And I don't know what that means in terms of what do we do next. Is socialism right? Is democracy right? I don't even know anymore. All I know is what we're doing right now is not right. It's not good for anybody, except for those who are elite and wealthy.
Well, and going back to what we were saying about, what you were just saying, and I'm trying to find a meme that I really wanted to do, and I can't find it. I'll look later. I'll paraphrase it. It's close enough. About they lie so much they don't even know anymore. Going back to pre-gas prices, pre-Iran war and all of that, he could get away with that. Trump could say whatever he wanted, and there were enough people. So his base is going to vote for him regardless. They're all in. They're hoodwinked.
Or are they? Because there are certainly signs that base is even starting to.
Well, okay, let me rephrase that. There are hardcore people, and I've talked to you about this before. And for those of you I think for the first time, thank you. For those of you who are here often, thank you. But one of the things I did when I started, Jim and I both, we don't talk about this as much as we used to because nobody's traveling anymore. But Jim and I both are travel advisors with cruise planners. And when I started my business, I'm not a fan of social media. I won't get into this right now. But I told Jim what I would do on Facebook, and anybody who's got Facebook, you get that little bar about, 2/3 of the way down the screen that says people you may know. And I told Jim I had like maybe 300 friends, that people that I cared about, that I stayed in contact with. So if it were 10 or more
Common friends.
mutual contacts, yeah, friendly, I would reach out to them. Well, I now have like 3,200 friends on Facebook. And I was telling the couple that I was having dinner with last night, and I said, and I mean this with all of my heart, probably 3,000 of them I've never met and have no idea. They're friends of friends of friends of friends of friends. And I did this to grow my business. So when I said,
Right.
hey, it's time to travel, I would get a wide swath of people. Well, what's interesting is, with no real thought into it, there are people from all over the country, all different walks of life, all different socioeconomic statuses. So I understand that 3,200 people is a very small data point. So I want to put that out there first. I'm not suggesting that it's everything, but there are quite a few people who post all of the time about Donald Trump is the greatest thing that's ever happened to the world.
my
He's
God.
going to save us. So what I'm saying, there's a
I
still,
can't even go on X anymore. It makes me so nauseous.
well,
Go on
there's,
X,
there's,
Twitter.
right.
Talk about an echo chamber.
Well, that's what I was saying. There's still a swath of people out there, and I'm not smart enough to put a percentage number on it. But they used to say that Trump's hardcore base was about 30% of the American public. I don't know if that's true or not. Let's go with that. So whatever percentage of that are these people who I still believe identify with his victimhood mentality and will follow anything he says and make excuses. And, yeah, when he said he was going to wipe out a civilization and, open the fucking strait and praise be to Allah, that was just his hardcore negotiating strategy. He's brilliant and all this. But the other part of that is, like I said, there are people out there who are waking up and looking. It's funny. I think I told you I listened to another podcast where it's called Knowledge Fight, if you've ever listened to it. And basically what they do is they listen to Alex Jones and they debunk what he said. And he always talks about the Great Awakening. The Great Awakening. People are waking up to the globalist stuff. Well, I think the Great Awakening is people are paying over $4 a gallon for gas and looking at all of this and going, none of this was necessary. And what I mean by that is
losing their incomes, getting less for what they have.
Right. And the last time we were in the Middle East, again, hindsight's 2020. We now know we were lied to and of misinformation. After 9/11, most people, and there was a sliding scale of how far we thought we should go and everything else, but most people were like, "Fuck yeah, we need to do something." These people, I'll pay a little bit extra for gas.
You're just at that point.
Right. That's something. I'll pay a little bit for gas. I'll eat this right now because we have got to get revenge. We've got to stop, whatever you want to call it. This time it's like, the more that comes out, and I was listening to something the other day, and I won't reference it because it's unimportant, but they were talking about the influence, and I didn't realize this, and this is not conspiracy theorists, and go ahead, call me anti-Semitic. We'll do that because there are so many people in this country that cannot figure out the difference between the Israeli government and the Israeli people. Fine, call me anti-Semitic. But no, we send billions to Israel every year, and then they funnel it back through AIPAC, and they fund our own politicians. And that's why up until, I don't know what's changing, but up until recently, if you said anything against Israel, man, you were anti-Semitic, you were anti-American, they're our strong ally in the Middle East. What are you doing? And I think people are starting to wake up to the fact that, no, they're as fucked up and crooked as the Trump administration is. Again, I want to say it one more time.
Someone who would do what they wanted.
Right. And I'll say it one more time. I'm not talking about rank and file Israeli people. I'm talking about Netanyahu and his government. Just like I love the American people. I do. There's some I want to back around a little bit for, being kind of closed-minded, but I love the American people. I hate this administration. And I think a lot of people are starting to get to that.
Yeah, I think that there's just too much now affecting the individual out there. Everybody's being kind of hurt now. It's no longer, there were some people who just could get through it without a problem. Now it's starting to be in demand.
Well,
I can tell you, there's a lot going on the whole, there's so much happening. I want to talk a little bit about things that are different. Like, where's RFK right now in our ghost measles surge in Utah? I mean, measles is on the rise. This was a disease we said we took, and now we're seeing it surge. And let me tell you what, was it syphilis or gonorrhea is coming back in a way that's actually so mutated, they don't know what they're going to do about it. And those things disfigure you. They make you look ugly. So what's going on? Why is this the way we're headed? And I have to say that there is something's wrong with our government when things go this bad, because when things are going good, you will fall on the God's on our side game, right? And right now, I don't think God's on our side. We've screwed something up, and we're going really wrong because we're challenging what we believed in before. We believed in and taking care of viruses with shots. We believed in healthcare, and we're not doing it anymore.
Well, Jim, it's interesting. I don't know if you ever, there was it's probably 15 years old now. One of my favorite TV series of all time was called The Newsroom with Jeff Daniels. And everyone's probably seen the viral clip where he's like, America used to be the greatest country, and he lays it all out. And it's it's probably one of the best first scenes of any show ever. And I mean,
either got you or pushed you off.
Right. You're just like, that was how they opened the series. That's how they opened the show. You're like, well, shit, this has got to get better. And it was.
It did.
It's great. It's 3 seasons. If you've never seen it, watch it. But in that little tirade, and I'm going to, or whatever you want to call that season opening, I'm going to paraphrase this, but he said, we used to revere intelligence and expertise. We didn't used to be threatened by it. And I think what has happened is if you're willing to vote for someone like Donald Trump and I'm talking about 2024. If you're willing to vote, or 2016, well, no, more 2024, because 2016, again, I'll give you a pass. We all knew, but if you didn't, okay. The second time around, it's on you, people. If you're willing to vote for someone because of their business acumen, who has bankrupted every business he's ever had, including 3 casinos. I will never, ever, if I live to be 100 years old and I have the
How you
world's
street that business up.
hardest, yeah, and I have the worst dementia on the planet, the last words I utter will be, he fucking bankrupted 3 casinos. He bankrupted 3 holes in the ground that you pour money into. But anyway, so if you're going to vote for somebody like that, and somebody who says things like over and over again, I know more about the military than the generals do. I know more about inflation than anybody in history. I know more about this. I know more about that. Then it stands to reason. And if you're also okay with, on some level, burning it all down, and not constructively, because there are ways to burn things down without just,
don't take a bulldozer to the East Wing.
well, yeah, exactly. But I mean, you can torch a system without just lighting it, standing back, and then going, wait, what do we do now? You can, right. I got a funny one. I don't know if you know this. So I'm sidebar. I don't know if you know this. Back in the day, you're talking about Beavis and Butthead. There was a kid out in Kansas or someplace who set his family's trailer on fire. And he said it was because of Beavis and Butthead. So if you go back and watch, and I can't remember what episode it is, but the very next episode, Beavis goes, liar, piss on, whoa, and stops, and never says it ever again. But anyway, so if you're
needed TP for his bunghole,
but if you're in that mindset where, system's corrupt, let's burn it all down. Let's Donald Trump go in and drain the swamp, which that's a whole nother thing. I don't know how anybody believed was going to happen. Then you're going to get a Hegseth, and you're going to get a RFK Jr.
Oh, and Pete Miller, hey, what happened to him this week? He disappeared, didn't he?
Yeah, because after the whole,
he went into hiding.
Yeah, pretty much. So, well, when you're that unpopular, you keep your head down because you don't want more headlines than Trump. Because Stephen Miller is smart enough to know that if he gets more headlines than Trump, good or bad, he's going to get the axe. But no, it just, when I look at RFK Jr. and like I said, people aren't listening, and you don't have to, folks, listen, you don't have to be as nutty as Jim and I are by reading stuff and taking notes and doing a podcast. You don't have to be that politically involved.
That's what we're here for. We're here to help you get through that part.
Right. But if you just listen for a minute, I'm just going to hammer one data point because this one stuck out. RFK Jr. about 3-4 months ago, I think it could be a little longer, so don't hold me on the timeline, was giving a speech where he was talking about sugar. And look, what these people are brilliant at doing is taking this much, and for those of you listening, I've got my fingers about an inch apart, taking about this much fact and then conflating all sorts of bullshit around it. So you hear the fact, and you're like, that sounds reasonable, and then the next part is complete nonsense. He said, it's about sugar and how refined sugar is destroying us. And he's not wrong. That's a fact. It doesn't take a genius. No, seriously, it doesn't take a scientist to figure it out. There's enough research out there. We all know, that refined sugar is horrible for us in moderate to heavy quantities. So he said that. Then he said about diabetes in the US. And then he said, just look at China. 10 years ago, they were 15% diabetic. Children in China were 15% were diabetic. Now it's 50%. Now just stop for a minute. Do we really believe that any country, half of them are diabetic? Like, that would be such a huge thing. We would hear it, even
how the plan like to spin the facts. They would never say half of their country was diabetic.
But somebody, you would have heard it somewhere else besides our director of Health and Human Services.
If we change the Defense Department to the War Department, can we change Kennedy's to the Sick Department?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, exactly. Well, if you're going to put a president in charge who consistently says he knows more about anything, name a subject, he knows more about it than the experts, then sure, let's put somebody.
Who says that a lot? Someone doesn't know anything.
It's funny you said that, Jim, and I'm going to go out on not too far of a limb here, but you and I've talked over and over, and this is nothing you and I came up with. Trump projects everything. Kamala's going to raise prices, he rose prices. Kamala's going to go into, if she's elected, is going to go into, Obama ran, he bombed.
He even said Obama was going to go to war.
Obama, Clinton, everybody. He projects everything. When he talks about this person, that person being low IQ, I don't think I'm going out on too far a limb to say that I mean this with all my heart. I don't think the man's in triple digits IQ. Yeah. And the reason I say that is in part of it is narcissism that you and I have talked about and that I've studied. The other part of it is he gets stuck on talking points and inserts them over and over again in places where you're like, how's that pertinent to anything? And
The stock market's at 50,000.
I swear to God, I'm getting you a t-shirt made. I've got to do it. But no, I mean, if you think about it, like he's broken record, and I don't think it's it's all only the narcissism. I think it's because if he hits on something that to him sounds intelligent, like we're taking a little excursion and things like that, it's like nobody's got balls enough to say, "Sir, it's incursion, not excursion."
I know. Being a travel person, I
Right.
laughed every time he said excursion. I'm like, whose book that was? That feel like
Right.
I'm to buy a
Right.
tour about that.
Is it
I
a
want
walk?
to go on that excursion.
Is it a walking tour? What is it? Yeah, but no,
Like there's a lot of stuff that he says, and you do hear it's the biggest, the finest, those things that kind of are part of Sundowner, is part of going a little bit losing your mind. And no one's willing to say, sir, maybe you shouldn't say that anymore. Which other presidents have had to hear that, right? They've had to be told, you're not saying nuclear right, or, there's just been time. And the fear of being able to say to your boss, something isn't right is scary, because that makes you do things you shouldn't do.
well, and for me, it comes down to how volatile certain speech is. And what I mean by that, if you're selling real estate in lower and upper Manhattan, and you're saying this is the greatest building, no one's ever seen a building like this, it's worth so much money, you're really not hurting anybody. And what I mean by that is, if I'm trying to sell you a $10 million building and you just take my word for it, you're an idiot, because anybody who's got $10 million to spend is going to do their due diligence. So when he says, this is the greatest building, you hear this, whatever. Hopefully if you've spent, I mean, now if you're a first time home buyer, yeah, you might take somebody's word for it. But Donald Trump, especially in New York, was known as a blowhard. So if I'm going to buy $100 million building from him or whatever, I've already done my due diligence. My accountants have looked into it. So say whatever you want to say, Donald. But when you're the president of the United States and the leader of the free world, and you say certain things like that, there's problems with that, because the rank and file sometimes listen to it, and it's like, he's not just obfuscating, he's lying. And I don't know. And so you were talking about believing your own, my father used to say, smelling your own piss. He believes his own lies and everything else. Did you see, I know you did, but did you see that JD Vance is actually campaigning for Viktor Orban, and what they have, and because Orban is, the people are done, and Orban is like behind by like,
I think he won.
did he? Did that already happen?
It happened this week.
Okay.
I remember reading it, but of course it's not about our country, and it wasn't really that critical to me. I didn't.
Yeah, we have enough going on. Let's see. Did Orban win?
Okay.
No, polls are close. Let's see. Could actually lose. When is the Atlantic?
You know it all.
Anyway, yeah, I will. But he's behind, and then JD Vance went over and was stumping for him, and they're saying that probably did more damage, because if I'm in Hungary and I'm done with Viktor Orban and his style, the guy who's doing the exact same thing in the US is not swaying me toward their cause.
It sounds like something they saw in the 1940s,
Thank you. Thank you. But yeah, and speaking of Vance, I don't know, there's been a lot of inside chatter in DC that this is really like, that he is really trying hard to pretend like he supports Trump in this war, but he's been leaking stuff. Well, sorry, I don't have any knowledge of that. There's a lot of belief. Well, no, there's a lot of belief that he's been leaking stuff to the news about some people in the administration were against the war, but had to go with Trump and everything else. And a lot of people believes that he's positioning himself that when all the shit hits the fan and everything else, he can come out and say, I was the one leaking it. I disagreed with it from the beginning. But now, so what does Trump do? And I don't know if this was on purpose or if this is just Trump being Trump. But so he sends him to negotiate with Iran.
I mean, there was something about that there was a bit of satisfaction laughing the other night when I watched with Dave when I saw the news about him. I was saying, well, talks are broken down and we can't get anywhere. And I'm like, well, that's because you're not the guy you don't have any experience. You don't know what you're doing. God, Kamala could have got that one done.
Well, and Jim, there you go. Like we were just talking about, it's the death of expertise. It's like, well, he's the vice president and he's my guy, so he should go. Let's be realistic. Jared Kushner was negotiating with Iran, and there are a lot of people that believe that he blew up those negotiations so that Israel could, pressure Trump and Trump would go in, because the what was it from Oman, I think it was the negotiator that was there from Oman, said that things were going great and that Iran was actually agreeing to things. And he truly thought that they were headed toward, a deal. And then like 8 hours later, the US and Israel start bombing. So Kushner and Witnikoff, they have damn expertise in this. And by the way, when Kushner was over there, he was begging for $4 billion for his
He's working on his private shit anyways. He ain't.
right,
he
and
ain't-
here's JD Vance, who has zero international experience. I'm sorry, he just does. And for those of you listening, are like, I don't either. But if Donald Trump tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Go negotiate in Iran," I'd be like, "Sir, you need to find somebody else." I don't know. I don't know enough about it. I am certainly don't have enough expertise to do something this sensitive. But JD Vance is not going to buck Trump openly because
No, no.
you know what happens when
And
you
that's
do
what this
that.
is. This is a be a good boy, Aaron, and stand up for daddy. You show me that you're loyal
Oh yeah.
and go do the thing.
Speaking of good boy, do you remember when your boy Tucker Carlson said the daddy's home and he's gonna spank and all of that kind of stuff? Have you seen Alex Jones, Candace
Oh, they are
Owens?
on the other side of the fence now, looking back.
They have
He
come
let
out
us
with
down. He's not doing what he promised. This is not what we wanted. I'm sitting there going, you goddamn motherfuckers. You built this man. You put him in office, and he's not doing what you asked. And instead of taking him out, you're going to leave him up there for all of us to do.
well, and it's just like you and I were talking about. If you're going to you've got to know when to punt, and there's a moment where they are starting to see. It's just like what we talked a couple episodes
Rats
ago.
on a ship, man. It's all rats on a ship.
Well, right. Well, and it's what you and I talked about a couple episodes where people are like, well, Donald Trump should be president. He's a businessman. He can run the country like a business. So I've said this before and I'll say it again. It breaks my heart to say this, but the one good thing about true politicians is they want to stay in power. So they're only going to fuck up so badly so that they don't lose power. Well, it's the same thing with these media talking heads. They're seeing the winds change, so they've been pushing Trump, pushing Trump, and now they're seeing things change, and they know that the Republicans are
Yeah,
going
because they want to stay popular and people want to go. They're going to want to find the next big horse to get on.
right. So now they're getting more viewers who are angry with Trump.
Why you follow us, folks? Because we don't give a shit about the horse.
No, and it's interesting. There's the Young Turks are doing. I don't know if you read about this. The Young Turks are doing an online petition saying it's called "Not Another Dollar," I believe is what it's called, and it's not sending another dollar to any Republican, but more importantly, Democratic candidate who takes money from AIPAC, because there was a bill that was running through Congress to call out AIPAC, and the word on the street is that two potential Democratic presidential contenders made phone calls to put the kibosh on it. So that hasn't come out yet who it was, but AIPAC, and again, no problem with the Israeli people, but we're sending billions of dollars every year to Israel, and then they're turning around and using it to buy our politicians. And that's why everybody's afraid, they're our ally in the Middle East. No, they aren't. No, they aren't. They take our money. They do whatever the hell they want to. They infiltrate our government with the lobby money, and they do whatever the hell they want. Just like Trump with this dumb 14-day ceasefire. And then, literally, while this is going on, Israel's hammering Lebanon and invading southern Lebanon. And Trump's like, "Oh, that was never part of the deal." And it's like, dude, no, that's because Netanyahu called you and said all of this is part of the deal except for Lebanon. So yeah, I just.
So, Chuck, there's also been an interesting other things going on. So, first of all, if you followed the Artemis mission, we saw some of the most beautiful photos of the moon, the most in-depth, high-res photos we've probably ever seen. If you haven't checked them out, there's some great stuff going on YouTube. There's some channels that are some reporting. Really beautiful. I mean, I was kind of glued to the TV watching a few going, wow, I mean, we haven't seen stuff like this because we have technology to do it now. And I'm pretty sure we went to space and we swung around the moon. But I always live when that NASA kind of get tripped up and they've gone to the furthest south in space anyone's ever gone. I'm like, we've been to the moon. So what happened? You're tripping yourself up. Congratulations. They made it home safe and sound.
Yes.
Thank God for that because, I was kind of worried that given the state of everything, that would get another deflection from, Epstein.
Well, Elon
but I
Musk.
really want to talk about what's going on in tech right now.
Okay.
No, you go ahead. You got something. You want to say something?
No, I was going to say you were worried, and yes, thank God they're back, and that's fantastic. But you were saying you were a little worried about with the technology, but yeah, Elon Musk had something to do with it, so you never know. Go ahead.
So let's talk a little bit about tech. We've obviously all seen this rise of AI and all the things it's going to do and all the jobs it's going to replace. There's been recent news that talks about the fact that AI, the folks who have learned to manage AIs, and there's jobs were replaced by AIs, are finding that AI can't do the job, and they're actually working harder than they were before to get the AI to do things. That's one part. The other thing is that we're starting to see folks like Sam Altman are being found out. There's a lot of money that man's taken that's gone missing. Disney was the only one smart enough to pull their billion back, but it's starting to crumble. I'm going to tell you what. I said this in the beginning. AI is going to be around. It's not a not go. AI is not going to get smart enough to do things just yet. It needs a lot to learn to be able to take over human capacity. It doesn't know how to do things our brains let us do. So, don't think the end of the world's coming. It's more likely the end of the world's coming because of something Trump does than because of AI, to be honest.
And the thing that worries me the most about AI is I've been reading about how much water and energy it takes.
Yes, it's going to drive our grid. It's going to break our grid. It's going to make us all starve.
Right. And it's gonna break our break our grid so that people can make videos of cats fighting humans and stupid shit like that.
Yeah. It's actually, there's potential it's driving drought in a number of countries, let alone even in here where we're seeing the most severe drought in the United States and the Southeast that we've ever seen, which is unusual, but we are sucking water into these these AI data centers. And, you kind of wonder when Amazon's touting building a data center that's filled with water inside of it. You kind of go, well, that's interesting, but you need all that water for computing power gets hot. We haven't learned to ever change that. And
Right.
so, it's awesome that we have these tools, but be aware. And I'm even finding myself kind of I use AI pretty extensively in this podcast just to help me get through things. I always review it to let it have its own way. But be aware of what you do with AI because it does use water, it does use power. And if you haven't seen your power prices go up, but they are, and gas prices are about to go up as well. I mean, liquid natural gas, because of course the straits close. But I'm going to pat myself on the back once again, Chick, because I have the electric car and I have solar, and I did that 2 years ago, not knowing this was happening. But boy, am I happy I did it now.
Very good, Jim. Very good. So it's probably about this time we're at the magic hour.
Okay, but I want to give the baggie out first.
That's what I was
Because
gonna.
it's always
That's what I was bringing. Go ahead. Who's the
our
bag?
baggie of this week is going to go to the voluptuous, curvaceous, framboideous Melania Trump. Melania, not Melania, because I don't know. She's great. She's perfect. She's wonderful. She's the wife of our president. She is so worried about preserving herself and her image. She could care less what happens to you people. She doesn't care about kids. She doesn't care about anything. She cares about what's going to come out when they find out she had sex with Jeffrey Epstein and that she's a whore. That's what it comes down to. So I'm going to smear her bad name because I hear she's got lawyers out there looking for folks smearing her good name. Come get me, folks. Melania Trump, you win the baggie of the week.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Jim Houck, not holding back. I think the thing that worries her the most is that she's tried to put out this image of, very smart, has a degree, came over, was her own person. She's created a brand and this and that and the other thing. And what I read, and again, I don't know if it's BS or not. So don't, well, Melania, come after me if you want. Go ahead and come after me because when you find out what I owe the world, you're not going to want any part of this anyway. But yeah, what I read was that can't remember the guy's name, but the guy who ran the modeling agency that she was part of, that there were two level of models. There was Jim is young and beautiful, and he's on Vogue, and he's on catwalks and runways and all of that, and people are paying him to do that. Then there was the second level, which maybe you weren't as attractive, or maybe you're a little older, and the idea, and this is well known in the New York circles, and what you would do is they would push you toward rich men. Now, it's not to say
There's the third circle, which is you got on a plane with Epstein and then
well, sometimes those crossed over, but the second level, it's not that they were call girls or even escorts, but it was more like they were put in the company of, and if you were interesting and whatever, then you might land one of these rich guys. And what's really interesting, if you look at the timeline, she was saying that when she said she didn't meet Donald Trump through Jeffrey Epstein, she met him at a party, and I think I'm going to get this wrong, but I think it was 1988. And that's when they fell in love. Well, folks, if that's correct, he was still married to Marla Maples. And So, yeah.
Timeline. I'm gonna tell you, if anything happens in the Trump world, the timelines are like like a spider's web, right?
Oh, yeah, they're blurry.
There's wording in there. In fact, I'm quite sure that's how she gets her messages out in the web.
Well, here's what I love about all of this. She may be the one, and this may be calculated on her part. I don't know how smart she is, and I don't mean that in a catty way. I don't know how aware of the world she is. She may actually be the person to bring down Donald Trump. Because by her doing all of this and them telling Todd Blanche you have 30 days to release the rest of the Epstein files and putting Epstein back up top, and there are still a whole lot of MAGA folks who are like, we need to see the rest of the Epstein
Yeah.
files. And like you and I talked about last week, it's not rocket science to say, okay, the first 3 million they sent out couldn't be the worst. They're holding those.
They're holding the stuff that's real damaging.
And the stuff that's
And
already
if she's
come out
smart, she wants out.
is
She wants it clear before her name comes
well,
up.
and not only that, she said the victim should be allowed to testify before Congress under oath and it be put in the record. That's huge, man. There are MAGA faithful who are scared to say that. But what are they
She
going
put
to
him
do?
on the hook. And I think,
Is
there's a
Donald Trump
bit
going
that
to
says
fire her?
she's a calculating lady. She's not stupid.
No,
She
no,
is
no. And
actually brilliant. And I think what she realizes is she's got a loser cause. He hasn't done everything he promised. He helped her build a fortune. He helped her get her name. And I think she's looking at, what do I do post White House? She never wanted to be the first thing. That was not her thing.
right.
So she's using all this. She's going to walk away with whatever she gets because she's probably got an ironclad and she's probably got a lot in her name. He probably has very little, to be honest with you. So she's ready to go. I'm pretty sure we'll see a divorce when this all ends. Like she'll go
Oh,
her way and he's going to end up in Rikers Island.
I think she's going to do one or two things. She's either going, I mean, let's face it. And again, I'm not trying to be rude, but their marriage is a sham anyway. If she's living in New York and he's living at the White House or he's living at Mar-a-Lago and they see each other once in a while, don't give me the lovey-dovey shit. I'm sorry. No.
She
Look,
may divorce him before the
well,
term's
no,
over.
I think what she's doing, I mean, she was smart enough to marry a man, 25, 27 years older than her. She sees his health declining. Once he's not president anymore, he's not, let's face it, his lifestyle sucks. His eating sucks. He's not going to be around that long. And she's still a relatively young woman as far as things go. If she divorces him, she's got to fight him in court.
Right.
If she waits for him to die, she gets it all.
Here's the difference. He has done so much to violate their marriage contract. If you've seen Epstein Files, that she can divorce him without risk, right? So when that's not public, you can't divorce so easy because you lose.
Well, you're right.
Now he's in a position where, fuck that guy, I'm leaving because I don't want any part of this. He's done enough to make it not a null contract.
And you're right, because he hates bad publicity or hates to look bad or like a loser. Yeah, I could see her saying, "I'm out. Write me a check for $1 billion. I'm out. Don't call me ever
I'm
again."
sure that number's on the table already. The check's probably already written, just waiting for her to say, okay, I take it.
Probably so. All right, Jim. Okay. On that note, First Lady gets the Baggy Award. Now it's time for your happy ending. Jim, positive attitude linked to reduced dementia risk. So you and I are screwed. Having an optimistic outlook can reduce your risk of getting dementia by around 15%, a US-led study has found, adding to a growing body of evidence linking a positive attitude with improved health outcomes. Researchers studied 9,071 cognitively healthy individuals over a 14-year period. At the start of the study, participants who had an average age of 73 completed life orientation tests to assess their outlook. Their health was then tracked over 14 years. Overall, a third of the participants went on to develop dementia. Researchers found that those who scored higher for optimism demonstrated lower risk of developing dementia over the follow-up period. Each increase of 6 points on the study's optimism scale was linked with a 15% lower risk. Other factors researchers acknowledge could be at play, since greater optimism associates with higher levels of physical activity and lower rates of smoking. Quote, identifying optimism as a protective psychological factor highlights the potential value of optimism in supporting healthy aging, unquote, the study concluded. Quote, although optimism is a complex structure, it is not clear exactly how it might translate in terms of future dementia prevention initiatives. This is an area which merits future research. So what that means, folks, is be happy, keep your members.
I gotta tell you, I'm living proof. I did a gratitude practice, and just putting positivity out into the world brings positivity back to you. Your life changes. I can't be surprised that it neurologically changes you as well because it's firing a different set of chemicals that are much better for your brain.
Right. And folks, for those of you listening, I mean, we do talk about heavy stuff because it's a heavy world we live in right now. But I will say this, I agree with Jim. Give as much happiness. We I've gone on my tirades about bringing civility back. Be nice to folks. They'll be nice back to you.
Make America kind again and make America love
I
again.
love that. Make America kind again. That's fantastic. Yeah, we need to do that for our own health, not only for the rest of the world. It's beautiful when you can do something altruistic that also benefits you. And I don't mean to sound pessimistic when I say this, but all of this nonsense will pass.
It will.
Either Donald Trump will, either the Democrats will take over the House and or the Senate, and Donald Trump will either be a lame duck for 2 years and just whine about everything, or he'll get JD Vance to pardon him and ride off into the sunset, or he'll nuke the world and we'll all die. Either way, this will pass.
Yeah, live the moment, live with happiness, live with
Right.
kindness in your heart. Tell those around you you love them more.
Correct.
And reach out to that one person you haven't talked to in a long time and make sure they're okay too. So I
That's right.
think we've got to find a way to connect again as people. We live best in connection. We are a tribal species.
And it's gotten worse over the last 20 years. But you're absolutely right. Jim, love you, man. Always good to spend the time with you each week. I look
Likewise.
forward to it. And folks, we appreciate you. Jim, any final
Right,
thoughts?
like, follow, subscribe. We need you.
Exactly. Any final deep thoughts?
Deep thoughts. Deep thoughts.
Deep
I-
thoughts
They're
with
so
Jim.
deep that I probably can't get to them right now. No, I don't really have any deep thoughts. I think that it's raining in Texas.
Ooh.
Waters are getting deep.
Ooh. And on that, folks, we'll see you next week.
Bye bye. Boom.